Hello and welcome to this episode of Self-Made. I'm your host, D. Brown, CEO. Joining me today are two community and business leaders from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Please help me welcome Tony and Liz Reimonenq. Welcome to Self-Made. So happy to have you all here.
Thank you.
Now, the purpose of this show is to really let our viewers understand the journey that you've had to your success. So to really set the stage for that, I would like to start in your early years. Tell me about your childhood, where you grew up, and what your childhood was like.
Oh, interesting question. Well, I grew up in Bassfield, Mississippi, a very rural community. I had a fun, exciting childhood. My dad was the band director at the high school, so I was exposed to a lot in the area, and then my mom was a hairstylist. So I got exposure, I guess, both ways with in the internal community of Bassfield, and then the local Pine Belt is what we call it. So I think I ended up a social butterfly because of that.
Now, what about siblings? How many siblings did you have? And what was it
Well,
like?
I have 5 brothers, and I am the only girl, so it's a total of 6 of us. So quite interesting. I had to be tough growing up.
Tony, what about you?
Well, I'm originally from New Orleans. I'm the oldest of 18 kids.
Wow.
So I grew up half my life in New Orleans, half my life in Bassfield, Mississippi.
Okay.
And so growing up, my dad's a carpenter. Mom was a hairstylist, mostly stay-at-home mom as well. Mom separated from dad, moved to Bassfield. And that's where I learned really to think for myself and fend really for myself,
right.
and almost be like a surrogate daddy to my siblings.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of responsibility at an early age. My grandfather, who major part of my life, handicapped in a wheelchair. And I remember I used to have to, during the middle of the night, in 3rd, 4th grade, help him get to the bathroom.
Wow.
And get up and go to school the next day.
Yeah.
You know, so major responsibility at a young age, but it helped shape me for being who I am today.
So what is it like having 18 siblings? I mean, I couldn't even imagine.
Man, it's fun. It's fun. I grew up in a house with 11.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and so it's fun. I mean,
How many bedrooms?
Man, 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the most we ever had was 4 later on in life.
Yeah.
But early on, about 2 bedrooms.
Wow.
And so we stacked up in so you had the boys' room and the girls' room.
Yeah.
Or the boys' dorm and the girls' dorm. And I was El Capitano. I had to make sure everybody was straight. And so man, we would sit up sometimes all through the night and tell jokes to entertain each other.
Yeah.
And so it was fun.
Right. So high school, where did you all meet? Because I know, Liz, you're from Bassfield as well, correct?
Yes.
So how did y'all meet?
I'll let her tell that
Well,
story.
we actually met when we were in 3rd grade.
You're going to get your version, too. You see they match.
We actually met in 3rd grade when he first came to the school. I noticed him because
3rd grade.
he stood out because he had on some shoes that were orange and they were too big. And he had an afro and huge ears. And we were in the cafeteria and I saw him standing there and I was like, who is this boy? And he looked quite strange but shy, And I was kind of picking on him. But time flew on. And I think he never let that go, that he knew that I was picking on him.
What's your recollection, Tony?
It's exactly like that. I remember it was 3rd grade, just moved from New Orleans, and I was missing home. And they would line you up down the hall to go to the cafeteria. And my mom, because there's a lot of us, it didn't matter what size shoe you wore. You just got the shoe that was on sale. And I had some shoes that were too big for me, and they were orange. And she took advantage of laughing at me, man. And so it was my first interaction with her,
Yeah.
3rd grade. Fast forward, we were in a couple of classes together in the 5th grade and 6th grade, but I really don't remember.
Me neither.
But we didn't start dating until maybe our senior year in high school.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
The first day of our senior year, be specific.
So what were your biggest challenges growing up? Obviously 5 brothers, 18 siblings. What were your biggest challenges?
Growing up, I guess for me, I guess trying to learn how to be self-sufficient. My parents ended up separating when I was in the 9th grade. And we chose, well, I guess we didn't, I can't say we really chose, but we stayed with our dad.
Yeah.
So I had to pick up and learn how to really be the mother of the home and clean and cook and, survive for myself and teach myself how to do everything. So there were a lot of things that I missed and did not get to learn until actually I got with Tony, because he was so responsible and knew so much more. He taught me a whole lot of things. Yeah. But yeah, that was the difficult part for me growing up, I think, is when they separated.
Yeah. What about you, Tony?
Man, that's a good question. I had a lot of difficult things that I really didn't know was difficult until later on in life.
Yeah.
And what I realized later on in life, growing up really without my dad present all the time. And I realized, I remember having a conversation with him. I was about 36 at the time. And I said, Dad, I never really felt the connection with you growing up. And and my dad, man, he funny guy, man. He said, man, look, I don't have a connection with none of my kids. And I know what he meant. He didn't mean it how it sounded.
Right.
But man, just not being sure of a lot of things growing up.
Right.
How to tie a tie, when self-doubt creeps in, somebody to tell me I had what it takes, to make it. So there's a lot of things that was difficult for me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about now. Let's kind of fast forward to now. I know that both of you all are doing things in your community to make a difference in the lives of people of color, a lot of which experience the same challenges that you all had as a child, which are no different than the ones I had myself. So talk to me about some of the things you're doing in the community to help serve the people.
Well, for me, I have a heart for tween girls. And I think for me, the reason why my heart was so centered toward them is because I remember myself being 10 and 11 years old and had a whole lot of questions I wasn't comfortable with asking my mom. And I know we had a gym teacher who taught us about our bodies and stuff like that growing up. So I started a nonprofit called Blossoms and Butterflies, because at that age, that's when you are really developing into a young lady, and you're growing physically and also in your mind as well. And so I said I wanted to do something to help these little girls know that it's okay to ask the tough questions. You have people like me who experience some of those same feelings, and it's okay. Your body's gonna go through changes. You're gonna feel less than sometimes. And I wanted them to know that I have your back, and I will put people in place to also help you, and who can also relate, to those things as well.
Tony, I know you're doing a lot as well, so talk to me about some of the initiatives you are leading in your community.
Okay, well, one of my labor of love is called Linked Up. Linked Up is an empowerment center where we want to empower people. I realize that there's a lot of people who are gifted and talented, but really don't have a direction. There's a lot of men who's leading households who are not confident as leaders in the household because there's some basic skills that are missing, just really manhood skills.
Right.
Even beyond tying a tie, but what do I say to my son? What do I say to my daughter? How to manage money.
Right.
I make it, but I really don't know how to manage it. And because I don't know how to manage it, I don't take the role that I need to take to really bring the discipline that I need to take, because I don't feel the authority to discipline.
Yeah.
Because who am I to discipline? But the Empowerment Center helps them understand their role as a man, right? And so as a man, and then also the Empowerment Center helps them understand their role with money. Because a lot of times, if I don't make enough, I don't feel like I could discipline. And if I make it but don't know what to do with it, I don't feel like I could discipline. Yeah. So how do I see money as a tool? How do I see money as a resource to do good with, right? So money is beyond just understanding the mathematics of it, but the mindset of it, the discipline that it takes, right? And then finally, the spiritual side of things, right? It all goes back to, in God's ideal for running the earth started with his institution with family first, even before his church. I'm also a reverend, right? I serve on staff at a church called West Point Baptist Church. I'm responsible for staff, strategy, and church budget, right? And the church has many layers to it, right? The first layer is the salvific piece, where you talk about where we're going to spend eternity at. And we spend a lot of time on that. But there's two other pieces that I see we don't spend a lot of time on, which is social justice, right? Financial justice, which is why it led me to birth the nonprofit Linked Up to handle the social justice and the financial justice, right? And so in a nutshell, it's to bring the power back to people. And what brings power to people, what gives them confidence is first their competence. Yeah. They have to be competent at something. Right. And you can walk a little taller then, right? And so in a nutshell, that's what the Empowerment Center is, leading through financial education first. Opportunities for home ownership. Opportunities for entrepreneurship. And then finally, the opportunity to have a relationship with a mainstream bank and not the payday lenders. Right. And not the pawn shops. I grew up, man, I used to use that pawn shop as a bank. VCR, pawn. Nintendo, pawn.
Right. That was the bank back in the day for us.
That was the bank.
But you said something that triggered a thought in me, really a self-reflection, and that's about the competence component. A lot of times when I'm going into rooms with hundreds of people that I'm talking to, or going into meetings with, boards, whether it's cities, counties, colleges, sometimes people say, are you nervous? And I say, no, like this is what I live for. Like, and I know that comes from my confidence that I'm competent in the area that I'm going to speak on. And so I think that when you said that, it triggered that thought in me that that's a very important thing to point out, is that if you are competent in an area, then you're going to stand tall and be confident because you know that you control that space. But Liz, I'm going to pivot over to you and talk about Magic Hand Salon.
Yes, that's my baby.
That's your baby. It's a very elegant, upscale salon, and so I want to hear more about it.
So as you heard earlier, my mom is a hairstylist, so I was highly inspired by my mom. I grew up, shampooing, being her assistant, and I saw some things that I could probably change when I decided to open up my own. Actually, when I went to school, I always said that I wanted to be just the owner, or either an owner of the cosmetology school. I didn't really want to do the hair side. But the entire time I was in school and working, I was doing hair on the side. So I decided to go to cosmetology school and did great at it. And we opened up the salon in 2001, got a small business loan, expanded our first home that we bought at 22 and 23 years old, and closed in our carport and shot our first commercial for Magic Hand Salon right there at the house. And we always decided that we were going to run it as a professional business, no matter where the location was. And I think that exuded into our movements. We moved into a building, commercial building. About a year and a half later, we outgrew it so fast because we ran it very professionally. And we had roles in place from the start. What I was great at, what was he going to be great at? And we decided to work as a team because, being a salon owner, you can't do everything. You got to have somebody that can help assist you. And with the help of Tony, we got our roles established, how we were going to run our business. And it's been going great. We've been able to really be a blessing to probably over 25 stylists within the 20-year span that we have been open, who's kind of rotated in and out and some have opened their own, some have moved to other states to work in other salons, and I still have great relationships with a lot of those stylists. And to this day, I'm still mentoring stylists. We call ourselves a teaching salon, and so we try to grab students straight out of cosmetology school and start them out as a stylist aide, and they work their way up to a master stylist, and then we get you ready to go out and open your own if that's what you want to do.
Wow. And Tony, I know that you lean a lot on spirituality, and you are a reverend, as you mentioned, and you're with West Point Baptist Church. So talk to me about West Point Baptist, what you all do, not just as a church, obviously, but in the community, and then why faith is so important to you.
Wow, man, great question. So I'll answer why faith is important to me, then I'll go into West Point Church. So as we talked about earlier, growing up, there's a lot I didn't understand. I didn't understand the rules to life. And bumped into a guy named Marcus. And Marcus started sharing with me the faith, right? And he was really the only guy who can answer my questions practically about faith.
Yeah.
Prior to him, reverends and pastors would just say, well, son, you just got to have faith. And I wanted to know things, right? And he could answer those things. And in answering that, I became to know Christ. And with Christ came guidelines for life. How to raise the family, how to think about money, how to approach the community. So I started seeing patterns. And so that gave me a foundation, right? Then from that foundation, I fast forward, I became a hired on church staff and started as a youth pastor and then went to student pastor and then to executive pastor. So the church faith gave me a foundation. Now, West Point Church, man, the church is it's a practical answer to practical problems in the community, beyond even the spiritual. Spiritual is the foundation that informs the practical. So, for instance, gas prices are up right now. $5 a gallon in South Mississippi. Right. But the wages are still low.
Correct.
Right? So what we did about a week ago, we did a gas buy down. We took over 3 gas stations and paid for gas up front to the gas station and let the community come get a gas $1 off.
Right, wow.
So we brought the gas prices down to $4 and $3 for some people for like an hour at 3 different gas stations, right? Once we took over a school in a low to moderate income community where kids don't have things. And we bought that whole school new shoes. We partnered with a local shoe store. And we bought some shoes and put shoes on all. So that's what West Point, is in the community.
Yeah. And that's the type of work that impact lives. The spiritual piece is like you say, the foundation. But if you have that without the work product to go along with it, then you really can't successfully impact lives. So I like that story. Now I know you all have 3 boys, right? So talk to me about family, the role of family in your lives and how important it is to you.
I'll let you go.
Man, well, family is very important. It's scary too. Because, we're like first generation successful. And a lot of stats say if you're first generation successful and you're not careful about transferring those principles to the next generation, that generation will take you back to where you came from. Right. Because they experience the spoils of success, but they don't understand how you got it.
They don't understand the
what
struggle.
It took.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's the scary part. And I really believe that that family is the foundation for the earth. So goes the family, so goes the world. I think that's why we're in the turmoil we in now,
Right.
because the family has been so diminished. And so growing up, man, the easy part of raising our sons, we got Tony, Jairus, and Julius. Tony, and all different.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Tony majored in theater, minored in business. He's working at Kentucky Shakespeare. I mean, he's doing pretty good. Jairus is athlete. Man, I don't know where he get that. I'm not that athletic.
He get it from his mom.
Yeah, so she says. She ran track for one day. One day.
But she had it in her, though. She had it in her.
It was in her. Got you. It remains to be seen. But anyway, man, he's an athlete, football player on scholarship at James Madison University, doing well. And Julius is a budding nutritionist. And he's in college at Pearl River. He want to be, he's an herbalist. He believes in herbs healing the body. They're all different.
Yeah.
And so raising them at a young age was pretty easy. But when they got older, we just experienced like the blowback, so to speak, right? They kind of like their dad and like their mom. They strong-willed. They determined.
Right.
And that's good when it's good, but it's bad when it's bad.
Right.
I cried my most tears when they moved out of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
I never cried over them while they were in the house.
Yeah.
But it grew me up too.
Yeah.
It really highlighted how immature I was as a father when they left. And so I didn't want to lose them. And so we worked on building that, rebuilding that relationship,
Right.
with our kids. So, and it's really because we really believe that family is important, and
Right.
we want to protect their unity at all costs.
Right. Liz, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think for me it was a major adjustment, just becoming an empty nester, because as a mom, you spend your whole life really catering to your children.
Right.
And just for me personally, I know when they all left and moved out, I had to figure out who is Liz.
Yeah.
Who am I, and what do I like to do? What do I like to enjoy?
Right.
Because everything I did centered around them.
Yeah.
And what they had going on. So, I mean, it has been a major adjustment, but I'm adjusting well now, I must say. I got back in school, and I'm working on my BS in sociology. And I've also, just become heavily involved in the community with my sorority. So I have been doing a whole lot, keeping myself busy.
Right.
But it also matured me too, because it helped me consider myself.
Yeah.
I had to put myself first, because we have done our jobs.
Right.
And I had to be okay with what we did with raising them, and to let them go, and to trust that they were going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Tony, tell me, of all the things that you've accomplished to date, what achievements are you most proud of?
Wow, man, my boys.
Yeah.
Man, that's the proudest achievement, man. Cause all of the years putting into them, I knew if I could give them the stuff that I learned late in life, if I can give it to them early.
Yeah.
Now, they wasn't valuing it early.
But they were getting it.
They were getting
Yeah.
it. And they didn't start valuing until they moved out of the house.
Yeah.
And I realized that okay, it's starting to stick, right? So like learning to pay your bills on time.
Right.
Learning that if you're gonna have income, you gotta work for it first.
Right.
Right. And then if you're gonna work for it, you got to bring something to the workplace. What's
Yeah.
getting in your head?
Yeah.
Right? What's your skill sets? And so that's my most proudest. And then second most proudest, I don't know if it's second or first, but being married to this beautiful thing for as long as we have. Man, she put up with me, man. Oh, man, we've been married for, this year make the 21st year. And man, I didn't think I was, I was husband material. I'm shocked. I get up here, I'm still married. So I know it's the grace of God. Man.
Right. Liz, what about you?
For me, I would say my boys as well. Just family. I have always valued family. That has always been most important for me. And so just having stick and stay is what I'm most proud of.
Yeah.
Because we are still honoring our commitment even to our marriage, because it hasn't always been good, but we still honor it, and we get up and we do it every day. So I'm proud of both our boys and us.
Right. And so Liz, as we begin to wrap up the show, I know that you serve as a brand ambassador for a number of products. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, oh goodness. I have a lot of different certifications, but I think my most fun one now would probably be Design Essential. I work, do a lot of stuff with them and educate a lot of the clients on their products. Very, 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 I guess I could say conditioning for natural hair. I'm excited to see the changes they're going to make. They're always evolving, and I'm always trying to get educated and see what else we're going to be doing and learning. Right.
Well, it's been great having you on the show. I think that you've said a number of things, Tony and Liz, that I think the viewers can resonate with. I thought about you talking about your boys, about you gave it to them early. They didn't appreciate it, but later in life they did. And I have an old saying, I say, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, eventually you'll get a haircut. And so you just have to keep them around the barbershop.
Yeah.
Eventually they'll take the leap of faith and sit in the chair and get their haircut.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you all on the show.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come to Peoria, Illinois to be on The Self-Made with D. Brown CEO. To my viewers, thank you for watching, and remember, without you, there's no me.